Mackenzie,
Lamar.
get in, loser. We're going potting,
Yes.
first of
Yes, we
all.
are.
And my cold open question for you this week is: have you ever felt personally victimized by Regina George?
Haven't we all, really, to be honest? But
Even the
actually,
principal.
even the principal, which is one of the best parts of this movie. That whole scene is so great. But yeah, we're actually going to kick us off right at the deep end today, y'all. We're just going to jump right in because I have a trivia quiz for Lamar today, actually. So turn
Ooh.
around, don't drown. Potential
We've
spoilers
never
in this
done this
quiz.
before. Like we've
No,
never started the spoiler
just right
mark
away.
before the opening credits, if
We
that's
super
what they call
haven't.
those,
We
the
got to
intro.
break new ground. We're coming up on a year. We got to shake it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't for the record. I haven't seen this quiz either. I just pulled this up,
Okay.
so we're gonna see how we do. But we're pitching them to Lamar. Okay, are you ready?
I'm gonna do my best. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is very trivia. It's not in the
Say that
movie.
one
So
more time.
trivia.
Trivia.
Was that right? That's how I did
Yes,
it.
you nailed it.
Cool. Okay. So this one you would have to know the background, and I'm
Oh,
interested to hear your
jeez.
answer. True or false? Lindsay Lohan originally wanted to play Regina.
That is true. I read that actually, that she wanted to play that part, but she didn't want it to reflect poorly on it. It was like her first non-Disney film, so she didn't want to go straight into this and have it affect, I guess, her roles going forward. Meanwhile, you had um what's her fucking name? Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
Meanwhile, you had Rachel McAdams, who was a little more established and was known as sort of a nice person in Hollywood. And I think the director or somebody said, "Oh, only the only person that could play a mean girl is a nice girl in real life." So
Right.
that's why they went with that casting decision.
So not to like trivia bust. One, you got the answer correct according to this quiz.
Woo!
But two, I think that Lindsay Lohan was kind of lobbied to say that about why she
Mm,
switched roles,
that's
because
fair.
it seemed like she had signed on and then they told her it would ruin her image. It seemed like they sort of switched it on her, partially because they liked her dynamic with Rachel McAdams,
Oh,
and she seemed a little intimidated by Rachel McAdams as a person, so they thought that that would like help the dynamic of she's actually able to be a little intimidated by this person. And I think it lands really well. But anyway, there's a bunch of versions of this story, is the point.
right.
So, anyways, okay, next question. Who said you're plastic? Cold, shiny, hard plastic.
Well, that would be Janice Ian, obviously, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. They give you a little picture when you get it right. Uh
of her actually saying it. Okay.
of her actually saying it. Yeah. Finish this quote. It's like I have blank or something, Karen.
ESPN,
Yes. And
which
it's
is
so
a
funny.
great
This is
line.
something I say all the time in real life. And I think about 50% of people get what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't really think it's ESPN,
It's like,
guys. Like,
yeah. Well, they can tell when it's raining.
right. You can
I
tell
was
when
gonna
it's
say,
already
I
raining.
I did watch this, I think on Tuesday. It's Saturday now, so it's only been 5 days. But even if I hadn't done that rewatch, I think so far, with the exception of the first one, I would still get all these right. So let's keep it going.
Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Who said, oh my God, Danny DeVito, I love your work?
That is Damien. Questionable.
Correct.
I feel like people now get upset by that. I still laugh at it when I watch the movie, but now it's like there's a lot of body shaming in this film, and a lot of
There's a
people it hasn't aged
handful,
super well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think hopefully it's supposed to be representative of like how shitty high schoolers are, not
Yeah, it's accurate,
like
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's pretty terrible. Okay. You're going gangbusters so far.
I'm
So,
killing
all
it.
right. Who said they've gone wild? The girls have
The
gone
girls have gone
wild.
wild. It's the secretary, I believe, or vice principal, but I don't know her name. But it's the lady in the pink, the blue dress with the glasses.
I'll give you a half point for that one cuz it's Joan, the secretary. So you
Okay.
did get it half right. All right. Who said made out with a hot dog? That was one time.
What's her name? Laura something. I don't. It's one of the other female characters, but I have no idea which
Let
her
me
name
give
is.
you the multiple choice. I think that's only fair.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, Amber, Kevin, Katie, Taylor.
They don't have last names. I need like the last name
No.
because I can hear it coming out of the burn book.
Mm,
You said say the
Amber,
names.
Kevin, Katie, Taylor.
Taylor.
Ding. It's
Damn it.
amber.
Amber
Amber.
something.
The only reason I know that is I can see it in the burn book. Like I can see
Yeah.
the amber in the burn book. Okay. And fill in the blank. I hear her blank is insured for $10,000. Tim Pack.
Is it
Okay, let me give you the
hair?
multiple
Wait,
choice because I get to see them, so this feels only fair again. Dog, nose, teeth, hair.
hair. I'll go with hair.
100%. All right. What country does Gretchen say the word fetches from? South Africa, England, France, Sweden.
Hmm. I'm honestly, this is just going to be a shot in the dark because I don't remember that one. France seems the
Oof,
most hip.
England. I
Okay.
didn't remember that one either, if it makes you feel better. And I would have also guessed France.
It does
Like,
make
that
me feel
feels
a
like
little. That
something
feels like
she would.
something she would
Yeah,
brag about. Yeah.
I think so too. I think so too. Okay. Who said, "Oh, I love seeing teachers outside of school. It's like seeing a dog walk on its hind legs."
Well, it's got to be either Damien or Janice because it's when they're in the shop that she's working at. But I'll say Damien.
No, let me give you the multiple choice because you'll get it. Janice, Regina, Karen, Katie.
I'm gonna go with Damien, but it's Janice. It's
But
Janice.
it's Steph Janice.
Yeah.
I give you props for trying this without the multiple choice though.
Yeah.
And finally, who said on Wednesdays we wear pink?
It's not Regina, so it's either Gretchen or Karen. I think it's Karen.
Ding ding ding, you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
gave you confetti and I couldn't, it was too fast. Anyway, you got confetti. Gretchen Wieners is really proud of you. Uh
Yeah. What I get,
and I
like
also
6 or
think that's a
7?
perfect segue to our pink. Look at our pink
Oh
shirts. We
yeah.
we matchy matchy today.
Yeah. I put in my
So,
story on Mean Girls Pod Day. We wear pink, and we'll get to our drinks
exactly.
after the
Yeah,
opening scene.
check out our stories if you want to see our respective on Saturdays, pod days, we wear pink
Mhm.
outfits. So, all right. Well, thanks for going with the flow there. I think you did great. According to
Yeah.
that quiz, you got 9 out of 10. So,
And that's
you
all
did
the
good.
fun facts we have for the episode. It's going to be a
Right.
really boring episode. So
And we're done. See you next week.
yeah.
Just kidding. All right, let's get rolling. Okay, let me Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lemar.
And we're going back to school this month, as we mentioned last week, if you caught the Breakfast Club. But we're doing it by decade. So that was our 80s edition. And then we did, I guess actually that last week was Can't Hardly Wait because that was our 90s edition. And now we're going into the aughts with Mean Girls.
In 2004, same year as that
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead movie you loved.
My favorite film. I love that just keeps coming up every time we hear 2004. It's my favorite thing.
I'm never going to pass up on that opportunity.
I really think you're not. It's fine. I don't care. I'm going to talk shit about it again. All right. So before we get into all that, though, I want to talk about what are we drinking today? This was your baby. This was your name, your inspiration. So, tell us all about it.
Yeah, I think watching this, the drink choice is pretty obvious. It's got to be a cool mom margarita, right? When
Yeah.
when Amy Poehler's character brings them in, because she's not like a regular mom; she's a cool mom, and I love
She's a
that
cool
line
mom.
of, "Do you want some? Is there alcohol in this?
But
No.
do you
What kind
want
of mother do you
some?
think I am? But do you want some? Because if you're gonna drink, I'd rather you do it in the house."
Rather you
This
do it in the
episode is
house,
basically
honey.
just gonna be us quoting for 60
Yeah,
minutes,
I don't
but
know what y'all expect. Let's just start there. Guys, this is one of the most quotable movies of all time, and you all know what it's about. We're just gonna quote the shit out of it. All right. Continue.
facts.
What's in the drink? I mean, it's pink, obviously.
Yeah, as always, concocted by at Craft World, so follow them. And it's a pretty basic margarita: 2 ounces of tequila, half an ounce of Cointreau, 0.75 ounces of lime juice, and then we threw some strawberry puree in there. So depending on your sweetness, so you get that red tint that she has in the movie. But half an ounce to 0.75 ounces of strawberry puree, sweeten it up a little bit. And I got a
Let
salt rim. Did you use salt or no
I
rim on
did.
yours?
No rim on mine. I want to compare colors. Okay, yours is a little bit pinker than mine, but we're pretty close. Pretty
Yeah, I put
close.
ice in mine too. That might have watered it down a little bit,
I
but
did have a little,
okay.
because I'm a cool mom, I put a skeleton ice cube in there.
And now it's
I,
gone.
and now it's gone. Exactly. All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Delish. Thanks again as always, Craft World. Love it. That was good inspiration. I was super bummed actually. Skylar was like, right, we, as many of you know who have listened to us for more than 5 minutes, I just moved recently and it was quite the saga. So in that process, I got rid of a lot of things and I got rid of the glasses that she uses in this movie for this marg.
Oh,
And
I was like going
and
through our cabinets. I didn't have those types of glasses.
I have an embarrassing amount of glassware, right? Barware glassware, and I got rid of those. And it figures, a
Hmm.
couple months later, there's a perfect
It'll
occasion. And
come in
Skylar was like,
handy.
he's like, this is why you shouldn't got rid of those glasses. I'm like, fuck off. Okay, whatever. You right. You right. Anywho, it is delicious regardless of the glass you use, but we do recommend a little marg glass. It's more fun. And also umbrellas. She has umbrellas in the movie, so I didn't have any of those on hand. I'm sorry. All right, let's as we said in the cold open, if you didn't skip immediately through our 12-hour quiz, we are going to turn
Do
around,
people
don't
do that?
drown.
Is that a thing that they skip the cold? They're like, I don't really give a shit about the casual conversation. I just want to talk about Mean Girls. Does that happen, you think?
I have done that as a pod listener. Not 100%. It depends on the pod. Like
Yeah,
every now and then I'm like, I don't, their chit chat is not my vibe, and I'll just
fair.
get into like usually on like a true crime pod where I'm like, I'm here
Hmm.
for the crime. I'm not here for your personal life. Thank you so much. So you never know. You never know. But anyway, if you didn't listen to the cold
It's like
open,
me watching a Batman movie. I'm here for the crime. I don't care about your personal life, Bruce. We get it. Your parents are dead. Like, yeah.
oh, get over it. Why are you so whiny? Exactly. So turn around, don't drown. It's spoiler time.
Oh boy.
So Mean Girls 2004, as we said, and we got some basic ratings for you guys. The IMDb is 7.1 out of 10, which is pretty solid.
Seems a
Uh,
little low,
it did seem a
honestly.
little low to me too. Okay, I'm not crazy.
I
Cool,
know it's
cool.
not a perfect movie, but I think for what it's accomplishing, like trying to accomplish, it's pretty damn good. That's surprisingly low. I would think it would be around an 8 or so.
I wonder if that's like we've said in the past where like reviews get added to that later when people watch it
Yeah.
years and years later and maybe some of these jokes don't resonate. But again, I think it's supposed to be reflective of these, shitty kids. But anyway,
Hmm.
I agree. I think it's a little low. And critics agreed with us on Rotten Tomatoes because that was 84% from them.
Okay.
And another low one, 66% from audiences on Rotten Tomato. Does
That's shocking. That's
right? Right?
who is it
Who
just
are you people? Who are you? Raise your hand. Tell us what your fucking problem is.
like
That's what I want to know.
I don't even have a solid theory on why that would be. Is what part of my brain goes to, oh, maybe it's guys that watched this and didn't connect with it. But every guy I know like loves this movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I'm
and then
gut
I
checking
thought,
myself because I thought, well, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I mixed up movie. No, that's
no,
it.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
My other thought was maybe it's girls who watch this but aren't self-aware enough to admit that we can all, not just girls, everyone can be mean at different times in their
100%.
life, and they're like, I don't relate to this. I've never been mean to anyone. Fuck all of you.
I was going to say, don't
Anyone in
fucking lie to
particular.
yourselves.
Everyone in particular, like, a guy or a girl. If you're out there and you're thinking you are blameless and have never done a bad thing in your life, get the fuck out of here.
I also think maybe that's my one complaint about this movie is, well, yeah, some of the jokes don't age well, as we've said, but I think the fact that it's honing in only on the girls is
Yeah.
not totally fair. Like, it's like, all junior girls report to the gymnasium. You know what I mean? And you're like,
Hmm.
what about all these douchebag guys? Like, they need a workshop for something, I promise you. So, yeah, I agree. Everyone has been an asshole at some point,
Yeah.
potentially recently. So rein it in. I don't know, but yeah, that rating is super low. Y'all are weird, and it's like a cult classic, and people quote it all the time. And Alamo does movie parties for this. It's so popular.
Hmm.
Speaking of, I have a gift for you before we keep going.
I love gifts. What's my gift?
My shame is your gift. So actually I'm pretty proud of it.
I'm
I'm talking
intrigued.
shit, but it was
Okay.
actually a great time. So speaking of Alamo movie parties, they do a Mean Girls movie party with
Hmm.
props, of course. And as you recall from the film, there's all kinds of crazy accoutrement that makes appearances throughout. And my girlfriends and I went to the movie party, and I have photographic evidence to share.
Oh boy.
All right, let's see if you can see this baby.
Are there funny teeth? Oh, for her
Yes,
costume.
for her costume. We have
That's
super doof
incredible.
teeth. We have the plastic
Uh,
crowns.
that's a
We had
scary
other
mess,
stuff
bro.
too. I can't
Yeah.
remember. Anyway, if you don't watch this on YouTube, we will share this on our Instagram only, and you get to see my shame. I already let the ladies know that they were going to be featured. They
I
were
was gonna
not
say, you want
thrilled.
to shout out your two? Oh, they don't want their names named here
Stormy,
with their
no,
messed up
Stormy
teeth.
and Courtney can fuck off. Like, I'm doing it anyway. They just don't love that I'm shaming them, but
Oh,
they love me, so it's fine.
no.
But yeah, it was a great time. Like, it was a great time. I highly recommend that movie party if you ever want to check it out and just quote this movie like we're gonna do
Yeah.
today.
Most underrated quote of the movie, I think, is him saying, "That's a scary mask, bro." Like, first off, thinking it's a mask. Secondly, thinking it's a
Mhm.
guy, not a woman in this costume. Just yeah, it works on multiple levels. I love that
It
line.
does. I like all the layered jokes and some of the payoff jokes, like the Lebanese lesbian joke, like that
I
takes the whole movie to
literally just read that this morning, and I
yeah.
had never connected those. Did you actually
Really?
connect those dots while
I
watching the
did.
movie?
I not in the first watch for sure, but like in one of the later watches, yeah, I
You should
had. But
probably explain it because, like, I
oh,
didn't.
yeah. So throughout the movie, Janice Ian is being made fun of for being potentially a lesbian, being accused on a recurring basis of being a lesbian,
So
and then
she and Regina stopped being friends. I'm
right,
supposed.
because she was in love with Regina and so obsessed with her. And then again, they make reference to that throughout. And then finally at the spring fling, where she was dancing with Damien and he ditches because they do their little like impromptu kiss and are grossed out. Kevin slides in literally. And Kevin takes over the dance with her. And he, as you may recall from the movie, says he only dates women of color. So he asks Janice, "Are you Puerto Rican?" And she
Shout
says,
out to my white Puerto Ricans. Hell yeah.
yeah.
There are dozens of
There
us.
are fair-skinned Puerto Ricans everywhere,
Yeah.
exactly. And she goes, "No, I'm Lebanese." And he's like, "I dig that." And it's that she has been confused for being a lesbian rather than Lebanese the whole time. And it's fun.
And
I love it.
maybe that's because it's not a punchline in itself. It's meant to be sort of a hidden joke that you're like, oh, that's what Regina thought
Yeah.
everyone thought she was saying. But
Right.
yeah, I never connected those dots, and now I get it. I get it.
Right. She probably told
I'll
her at a
have a
sleepover,
nice
like,
little.
I'm Lebanese. And she's like, "Oh my God, she's a lesbian."
We can't be
What?
friends anymore. I'm
We
gonna
can't
have
be
a
friends.
nice little next time I watch this. I'll have a nice little, sensible chuckle to myself of I get it now. I am very smart. And
Are you gonna like twist up your mustache when it
I
happens?
might. I just might. Same as I did for the ep today. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I always like that one because I get accused on a recurring basis of being Lebanese. Not a lesbian, but Lebanese. I get it a lot. I have had multiple Lebanese men actually argue with me that I am Lebanese and I just don't realize. And sorry to disappoint, I am not. I
Men
have
do
zero.
love to argue and tell women that they're wrong about
Don't
things.
they?
So
About their
yeah.
own heritage? That's a separate conversation. Moving right along. But anyway, so we're gonna try to blow through these basics, but I think we're gonna fangirl on like half this cast, so it probably won't go fast. But we'll kick it off with the director, Mark Waters, who you may recognize from doing Freaky Friday, for example, where he had met Lindsay Lohan and wanted to use her again. He's done other things as like a producer. He's like one writing credit, but for directorial, it was Freaky Friday. Ghosts of Girlfriends Past is probably the only other one that people know really well. And then
I
I
had
think of
heard of the Spiderwick Chronicles, but I've never seen it. But
yeah,
he
I've heard
apparently did
same
the
thing.
first
I've
one of
heard
those.
it,
Yeah.
haven't watched it. Vampire Academy, same thing. Like heard of it, never watched it.
And a
But
couple
those
years ago, he did that awesome, beloved remake or alternate version of She's All That called He's All That. And I
okay,
know everyone loved that.
okay. I just want us to freeze frame on my face for the pod post on this because ew, the disrespect. Okay, the disrespect. And you now having seen She's All That, you understand the quality of the original. We don't need to redo it. We don't need to change it. I think it's unnecessary. Anyway, but yeah, he's done some fun ones, and then of course our writer extraordinaire Tina Fey, and obviously we've known her from a number of writing credits, including SNL on a recurring basis, In and Out, 30 Rock, of course, created by, wrote the whole series, and The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And she created that, wrote that as well, which was really funny, but I kind of fell off of. And
Mhm.
this was actually, though, her feature film debut writing credit.
Yeah.
So it's first full length film that she had done. And it's based on the source material of Rosalind Wiseman, which is, it's kind of loose to say source material because it was called Queen Bees and Wannabes. And it was like a much longer subtitle of like how to avoid clicks and whatever. I don't remember. Anyway, it was actually a parental self help guide of how to guide your teenager through the shitty years of Mean Girls,
Which
basically.
to me, I don't understand because even if Tina Fey had read this book and said, "Oh, like that's a cool concept of girls being mean to each other," but I don't feel like she needed to give credit if it's a non-narrative
She's
structure and it's
not
like parental
credited.
help. Though the
Rosalind
writer of the
Wiseman
book
is
is
not credited.
really
She's not
okay.
credited, but they mention her a lot as being the inspiration for the screenplay. So the only writer screenplay credited on the film is Tina Fey. But I just figured we should
That
shout out
makes more
where it
sense because I
originally
was
came
just
from.
like, Tina, you could probably just make this fucking movie and no one's gonna know that it was based on a help novel for parents, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, she hadn't, like we said, she hadn't written a feature film yet, and so she actually reached out to Lorne Michaels of SNL legacy fame, who's run that for years and years and years under NBC, and she reached out to him. She's shouted him out multiple times as a mentor and obviously close collaborator, and he's actually the one who went to Paramount and got the film rights for it.
Maybe it's
So
like one of those early first time writer director kind of not mistakes, but little quirks that we hear about when we talk about films where the director just assumed you have to film it from beginning to end. That's how movies get made. Maybe she thought every movie has to be based on a book because, we're out of creative ideas. So it had to be based on something.
it
Might as
had
well
to be
pick this
based on
one.
something, except she completely defined the narrative. Like it had no narrative structure. It was purely, informational. So, and she wrote a lot of the characters. She literally named characters for people she knew. Like, and
Hmm.
they knew that. So, like, Damien's named after somebody. Mr. Duval's named after somebody. I think Amy Poehler's character as well, and those were both written for those respective actors, so she very much based this on her experience, or she said it was easier to write as if these characters, and
Right.
so that was cool. And she also had, like, in her own mind, built up character backstories for all of these people, so if any of the actors needed inspiration or background on their character, they could go to her and ask them, like, what did they do in the third grade, and she would have gems for them to share, which I think was
That's
cool.
pretty cool. I know some folks, like some directors or writers, will let the actors kind of flesh out their characters'
Yeah,
backstories, but it's cool that she had it all in her head
she's
of
like,
what
no,
they,
these are my characters, you're just bringing them to life, thank you so much. But speaking of characters, we've got quite a few. We got a pretty solid ensemble cast here. Lindsay Lohan as Katie Heron, as we know. She was also, like we said, in Freaky Friday. You also probably know her from The Parent Trap, which is like a gem. Georgia Rule, which was notoriously horrible on set for. That's the only reason I know that one. I mean, I've seen it, but I've only mostly heard how terrible she was.
that was that after this, after Mean Girls.
Yeah, yeah, this was, like, when she was starting to get into some of her, problematic phases of her
That's
life, and
I
she was
yeah.
being kind of a diva on sets
I
and
wrote that down of
irresponsible.
this was supposed to be like her breakthrough, it felt like. I think we said in the cold open of this was her first non-Disney film. It was her first grown-up role. And I think she's 18 when she films this. And I think it's just that symptom of child actors where they don't know how to handle it and they don't have the right people supporting them. But yeah, this was supposed to be a breakthrough. And then I looked at her history and this was her peak essentially. She
Yeah.
really dropped off after this.
My guess is, like, this was really successful, probably more than she anticipated. Like,
Hmm.
there's no anecdotes about her being terrible on this set. She was, like, taking high school classes and stuff still at this time. So, I think it's after the fact, I think her head gets a little big. She feels a little, entitled. She obviously was a very successful child star as well. So I think she's just like, that's it. I made it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm just all supposition, but she definitely was notoriously shitty on
I think
Georgia
the
Rule.
only thing I saw after Mean Girls that I saw Lindsay Lohan in was Machete with Danny
Yeah.
Trejo. That's like the
I
only film I remember her in.
I didn't see that, and I saw Georgia Rule, and then I saw her in, like, some guest spots on things, you know, if you look at her
Mhm,
IMDb, she did a bunch of stupid little TV things, and now she's doing, like, the cheesy Hallmark type movies, you know,
mhm.
like, she did like, a Netflix Christmas movie or something like that, but I think she's coming out of it. Like, it's so weird. We were watching this in the background last night while playing pool so that I could refresh my memory. And my girlfriend that was with me was like, you know, Skylar was actually making fun of Lindsay Lohan, and we were both really defensive of her. We're like, we think she's doing better. Like, I think she's getting better. You know, she
That's
seems to have like
yeah.
getting out of her shit a little bit.
Hopefully she's happy and she's, got a
She's a
better
mom
support
now,
system.
changes
Yeah,
everybody, you know what I mean? So
I'm
good
sure
on
she's
you,
doing all right.
Lindsay, for, getting out of that phase. So anyway, one, as you mentioned at the top, who is notoriously nice is Miss Rachel McAdams, who I just think is like, I don't know. I've seen her interviews. Obviously, she's beautiful and talented and all these things. And then, of course, she's like just super sweet. And I'm like,
Mhm.
can you leave something for the rest of us, Rachel? Jesus. Okay. But she plays Regina George, straight up asshole. And she does it very well, which is fun. But she's known obviously for a lot of things. The Notebook, Red Eye, I actually really like, which I think is maybe a little bit of a deep cut for her, but I
I
thought was
still
really
haven't
good.
seen that, but I've heard that's her and, what's his
Killian
name?
Murphy.
Yeah, for Oppenheimer, yeah.
And I own it if you'd like to borrow it because it's good. Sherlock Holmes, she obviously is in that as well. Doctor Strange, she's not huge in that, but I still think she's a good character in that. And then Game Night she did with Steve Carell. That was really funny. I actually
Game
really
Night
liked them.
is maybe not underrated because it's not
I think
a
it
10 out of 10 movie, but it's worth a fucking watch.
That's what I mean. I think it's like underwatched. Like people
Yeah,
just don't consider it, and it's actually pretty funny.
and you
So,
get Jesse Plemons at, like, his comedic
oh my
peak. He's
god,
so
Jesse
good in that.
Plemons and Game Night is one of my favorite things.
How can
Like
that
with the
be
dog,
profitable for
you know.
Frito-Lay?
Oh, and he's a great one. We've talked about him on the pod before. That's one of his
Yeah.
good ones. Go check it out. Another great one I really think is Lizzie Kaplan. Hilariously, she was considered initially too beautiful for this role. They
Huh.
wanted and I think this is rude, quote me here. I did not say this. They wanted a Kelly Osbourne type at this time,
Oh my
and they thought
goodness.
Lizzie Kaplan was too pretty. But they thought she was good at the emotional, so she ended up winning out over some of these other folks who were up for the role.
She
So
is kinda rocking the Kelly Osbourne hair, though. She's
she
got, like, some
is.
of it in, like, dreads
I
and
do
some
think
of
you're
it
having to
kinda
hide how
yeah.
beautiful she is in this movie, though, because she is beautiful, and they're having to like make her up and like black out her eyes a little bit, so you kind of can't tell. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
as much as that style is totally bad, like you do, you girlfriend, you do miss some of like her natural beauty, I think. And I get what they're saying. It was a little harsh the way that they said it.
She's got
Um,
that, like, classic Hollywood beauty to
yeah,
her, like,
yeah,
when
she
she
could
even
be
in
that like.
Cloverfield, when she just has her hair, kind of wavy and she's in
Mhm.
normal makeup and it's not caked on her face, like, she's just gorgeous in something like that.
Oh yeah. So, but she does a great job here, like they said, of the emotional, the funny. Like, I like that she's not intended to be pretty here because it doesn't distract you from how good she is in this role. And like you said, she's in Cloverfield. She was also in Now You See Me, which is really fun if you haven't seen that. That's actually also a, I don't know, probably underwatched series. Allied, she was in for a small part. And then I was just telling my friends last night, she also did the Showtime series Masters of Sex,
I
which
watched, I think, the first season of that, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't stick with it.
I really liked it. I watched the whole thing actually, and I thought it was very well done. And she does a great job in it. And it's
Mhm.
actually more interesting than you think. It's about the first like groundbreaking sex researchers, and it's a very scientific approach, and she's super smart in that show, so it's really fun to watch her. Anyway,
I liked her in Party Down as well. I think she's only in the
I
first
didn't see
season of
that.
that.
Okay.
Party it was short-lived. I think it lasted 2, maybe 3 seasons, but it had, like, an all-star cast: Adam Scott, Jane Lynch, Ken Marino, a lot of the people from, like, the Wet Hot American Summer and, that
Mhm.
comedy troupe. But I think she's only in it for the first season, but she's pretty damn good in it. I know it got brought back a couple years ago for a season or 2, and I don't know if it's still on or not, but it's fun. It's about, like, a catering company.
What's it on?
I
We
wanna
can
say
cut
it was
this. I
either
just
on
wanna know.
Showtime or I think now you can probably stream it on, like might be on Hulu at this point. Like
Mm.
it's only probably 20 something episodes total, but it's a very
Mm-hmm.
dry, like what would it be like working for a catering company in the Hollywood Hills essentially, and it's all these people trying to become actors, but they're catering as like their main
Yeah.
gigs, and it's pretty funny.
Nice. I like it. Also, fun fact on the subject of Hulu, Mean Girls is currently free on Hulu if you have that subscription.
Woo-hoo.
So go watch it there. Okay, so Daniel, I'm gonna say his last name wrong, I'm pretty sure, but Francese? Francese? What do you think? He plays Damien.
Frances, like French,
Frances? Well,
Frances.
okay. Well, the French already hate me, so you take that one. But Damian Lee is who he plays. He has not done a lot, which makes me sad because I think he's
Surprising, he's
funny.
really good in this. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been in a couple things that he's quote unquote known for, according to IMDb, bully looking, some TV stuff. I have seen basically none of it. So I have no comments. Sorry.
He also, I find it interesting. I saw literally maybe 2 weeks ago. The guy who plays Kevin, I believe, came out as
Mm,
gay few
hmm.
weeks ago or last month, and I believe,
So did Aaron Samuels, by
yeah,
the way.
Aaron Samuels as well, and the this guy Daniel who plays Damien, he didn't come out, like he was not out when he played this character.
Hmm.
Not to say that you have to be gay to portray a gay character or vice versa,
Sure.
but he didn't come out until I think like 10 years later, which I thought was also kind of like surprising, but I don't know. He
Hmm.
does a great
Hmm.
job in this.
I think so too. And one of our friends was saying that last night that like most of the cast has come out since then. So I think that's kind of
Hmm.
a fun fact. But yeah, I mean, I love that like he does a really great job, and I love his line of like, and I want my pink t-shirt back. And or I want my pink shirt back. And he like improvised that too. So that was fun.
I'm glad they left it in because, again,
I
great
know.
line from the
It's just
film.
great. And I love
His
he's driving away,
his
rage yelling at
instant
her,
rage,
give
yeah.
me my shirt back, It's just funny. Anyway, Lacey Chabert, who plays Gretchen Wieners, and she has done like Not Another Teen Movie, Lost in Space, and then 537 Hallmark movies, in case you were curious.
And she was the
Uh,
original Meg on Family Guy for like a
I
season or
was gonna
two
say
before
she
getting
was like
replaced.
lots of
Yeah.
TV, lots of voice
Hmm.
work. She's done a lot of that, but like her bread and butter seems to be those Hallmark movies. But get that paycheck, girl. I get it.
She was also the voice of the main girl on the Wild Thornberries. What's her name? Eliza
I
Thornberry?
don't remember that one because that was a cable one. I mean, I remember like seeing it in passing, but I
Yeah.
don't remember those characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got a unique voice, so voice acting is
Which I
not
think she
surprising.
does have a unique voice in it. She's really good in this too. She's a caricature in this. So I feel like she can play that kind of stuff really well.
Yeah. I know we're not through the entire cast list yet, but
I was gonna say we're
rewatching it,
halfway through,
yeah.
by the way.
I always tell people that The Departed is one of my favorite films, and part of the reason for that is just how perfectly every cast role is in that. Like
Yeah.
everyone fits it to a T. And
Yeah.
rewatching this, I just went, holy shit, whoever the casting director was on this
They
nailed
nailed it.
every single component.
And I will say too, they had some challenges, like you had producers coming in and telling you not to cast people that you wanted. For example,
Right.
they wanted Blake Lively for Karen originally, I think it was. And they actually were told straight up to move on. So let's stir that Blake Lively pot that's going strong right now. Who knows why? Who knows
Yeah.
why? I don't know.
I
But
don't
they
know
were
if we want
told.
to go down that rabbit hole, but it's interesting.
Okay,
It's
it's an
very
interesting
interesting.
one.
Google
If
it.
you don't know what we're talking about, yeah, Google it. But anyway, that they were told to move on, and they had a few like that. And then there was a lot of like musical chairs between those plastics characters of who's going to play who, and a lot of considerations. But I totally agree with you. I think they landed on the right people for the right roles. It's hard to imagine it, without those people. So
Right.
another one of the plastics, for example, is Amanda Seyfried, who plays Karen. And she's been in a million things, and she's actually, I think, just such an excellent actress. This doesn't do her justice. She does it very well, and she's funny, but I don't think this shows you how great of an actress she has turned out to be. She's done Mamma Mia, Dear John, which is like a Notebook style movie, but again, pretty heartfelt, pretty well done. Les Mis, she was in and was very good. She's a great singer, and that's another thing. Like she's an excellent singer. So all three of those she sings in. And
I
then
also
she
remember her from like. Go ahead. Sorry. And then she.
No, you're okay. She did The Dropout is the most recent. It's like a mini series about Elizabeth Holmes, who started that Theranos company that was supposed to do
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
tests on a
yeah.
drop of blood or whatever. She plays her so well. It's creepy how good she does. If you have not seen that, 10
Yeah.
out of 10 recommend.
Okay, I've heard good things about that one. I also remember her from Jennifer's Body, which kind of flew under the radar when it first came out, but now has become another sort of cult classic on level with Mean Girls.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
you said that, she kind of this kind of undersells how good of an actress she is, but I think it speaks to how good of an actor when you look at her playing this role, and again just being so good at playing this airhead. Every line of dialogue she has, she nails it in the exact right
Oh, yeah.
intonation. She has this hesitance whenever she's this
I'm
like
sick.
she's confident, but she's not sure about anything she says. I don't know how to describe the tone of voice, but she's great in this. And then to see her in something like Jennifer's Body, where she's playing kind of a brainy person
Yeah.
and sort of playing off of the Megan Fox character in that, I do think that this speaks to her range for sure.
Oh, she definitely, yeah, she's showing her range here. And I think, like, to your point, the way she talks in here, she's like very passive. But yeah, she's like just is who she is. She's very confident in her personality and her portrayal.
This was
And
her debut too, right? For
this
feature
was
film
her
debut.
like breakout feature film. I think she had done some like small little things before this. But
Okay,
yeah, this
okay.
was her definitely her breakout role, definitely. Also in this, who hasn't done a ton of stuff since as well, but Jonathan Bennett, who plays Aaron Samuels, as we mentioned, he was in Van Wilder freshman year, because sure, why not?
That's like the
And
only thing I wrote down. I was like, I
that's
don't
the only thing
recognize
I wrote
anything
down. I don't
else.
know, and I
Yeah.
didn't watch it, but Van Wilder, everybody knows that. But Awkward, he was in a TV series called Awkward that I
Okay.
haven't seen. Have you seen that? I don't know what that
Was
is.
that on MTV? It
I think
sounds
so. It was
really
something
familiar.
cable-y, Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, I guess we
I don't
should
know. I
cause
haven't seen it.
correct here because we said earlier that Aaron Samuels came out as gay. It was not
I know.
Jonathan Bennett. So sorry,
I was
Jonathan.
like, Jonathan,
To
Aaron,
to our
same
knowledge, in
difference.
the Mean
Yeah.
Girls universe, Aaron Samuels is still straight and dating Katie.
Hey,
Yeah,
maybe
but maybe
not.
not.
Like, no
Yeah.
judgment. Maybe he realized. But yeah, and fun fact, again, the friends that I was watching this with last night met him, or not met him, saw him and his husband on their honeymoon in Mexico at
Oh,
a resort there. So he's happy. We're happy for him. Um, And then next up, Amy Poehler, living legend, plays Mrs. George here, the cool mom, the eponymous Margarita inspiration. We've covered her almost ad nauseum, I think, at this point, so I'm not going to go into her credits, but
yeah.
we love
But I
her.
will
She's great.
say about her character, just this is another sort of like when we talked about Can't Hardly Wait. Of the reason that movie for me is entertaining from front to back is the amount of time they put into these side characters that are only in a
Yeah.
few scenes. And her, whether it's the margaritas that we talked about, or whether it's trying to like sit in on the girls' meetings and like interact with them and just being shunned by her daughter, or her trying to dance at the
Hmm.
Christmas, like the talent
With the
show.
camera, don't forget
Yeah.
the camera is turned on her. It's not on the girls anymore. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part of she's like, this is about me now. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's all that investment into these side characters that makes this really, really
Yeah,
rewatchable.
they're totally fleshed out. Even Katie's parents, same thing. I love that her
Mhm.
mom they've moved back because her mom got tenure at Northwestern. Bad bitch. Northwestern is a great university, by the way. And they're zoologists, which is already an incredible job, like just all this cool backstory is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
So a couple more of those characters. Tina Fey obviously plays Miss Norbury, the math teacher, the inspiration behind the mathletes and all the good stuff that we see happen with that whole group of nerds. Love it. And she, of course, has done SNL, but these are her acting credits real quick. SNL, Baby Mama, Sisters, all the things. We've talked about, I think, her one other time on the pod, but just quick recap.
Date Night,
Date
Megamind.
Night.
She also apparently played a burrito in the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movies. So for my Aqua Teen
Because why
fans out
not?
there, yeah, why not?
Because have you really acted if you haven't played a burrito? I don't think
Talk
you've
about
checked.
range. Yeah,
Right.
talk
I don't
about
think you've
range.
checked all the boxes yet, really, unless you played a burrito. Tim Meadows plays Mr. Duval, also of SNL fame. He also did Ladies Man, was his only like lead, I think, really film. And then he was in Walk Hard as well. So
He's also in a Pop Star, the like
oh, I never
Lonely
saw
Island
that,
movie.
but
Worth watching. I don't know if
Okay.
it's up your alley humor wise, because it might be a little like dumb,
Stupid
honestly,
humor.
but
Yeah.
it's pretty damn funny. And Tim Meadows is great in that. He might be my favorite part of the movie. Also, did you know that he actually they have that line about carpal tunnel and he's wearing the cast? So that was a real cast. He
Oh, I
actually
know.
broke his arm during like prior to this being shot.
And I'm like, that is a wildly different cast than a carpal tunnel cast. Like, why can't we write in a line about how you broke your arm doing something legendary? Like, it can be that he made up a story. You know what
I
I mean?
guess. Well, I guess they
Like
still
I
needed
saved a
that.
woman crossing the street and I broke my like. I just wanted
That's
something more
fair, but I
because I
think
was
they needed that line at the beginning where she says, "I got divorced." It's funnier if he's just complaining about carpal tunnel,
totally,
and he, as opposed to breaking your arm, and she's like, "I win." I had the worst summer,
yeah,
so
totally. You're totally right. I just was so annoyed by the reality of it all. I had carpal tunnel like my entire high school career, basically. And so I was like, that's not the right cast. And I'm really upset about it. Anyway, moving on. He's really good in this. He doesn't get enough screen time, if you ask me, but he's awesome. And then finally, Anna Gasteyer was my last note here. There's more people. There are more great people in this movie. I don't mean that, but otherwise we will talk about this all day. And she is Katie's mom. She's also of SNL fame. She is kind of a supporting character in What Women Want. That's her only other like big movie that she's been in. She was also in That's My Boy, but she recently did, and I haven't seen this, but I've heard great things, so I wanted to mention it. Loot with Maya Rudolph on
okay.
Apple TV Plus. And then a bunch of
Interesting.
TV, obviously, like a ton of like voice work, a ton of like guest appearances and things like that. So
Yeah, I
she's been in
think
a lot of stuff.
if my count's right, you've got 4 or 5 different SNL alum in this, and then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if we're gonna mention Anna Gasteyer, who's not a huge star, but people remember her from like the Sweaty Balls skit with Alec Baldwin. I think it's only fair to mention Katie's dad, who is Neil Flynn, who people recognize as the janitor on Scrubs. Just wanted to shout that out because I feel like it's
See,
not
I
fair to say
debated
one
about
without
adding
the
him, but that's a
other.
good call out. Yeah, he just has such a small role in this that he's like the out of
Right.
touch dad that I'm like, okay, he's not paying attention to anything. She's grounded, but he let her out. It's
I
my
do like how he doesn't understand how grounding
He's like,
works.
wait, are they not allowed out when they're grounded? I'm super
Yeah.
confused. Also, like, did they leave civilization 35 years ago, like before she was even born? Because they act like they don't know how being a person works. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
it was just
right. You were in
like,
Africa, you weren't on another planet,
right,
yeah.
Africa's still like in the world. I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyway, it was kind of funny how they did that. Okay, super fast plot summary, and we're gonna dig into some probably just more quotes, like we said. This is a very
We're
quotable
just
movie.
gonna go top 10 quotes, and then we're gonna call it a day because 'cause we've been shooting the shit on this already for
and
so long.
we're gonna speed through it.
Yeah.
But so the summary, if you didn't realize, is that Katie Heron was a hit unexpectedly with the plastics, but at the instigation of Ian or Janice Ian and Damien, right? And that's the A-list girl clique at her new school until she makes the mistake of falling for Aaron Samuels, the ex-boyfriend of Alpha Plastic, Regina George. Bum bum
Alpha
bum.
plastic. I wish they'd used that term in the movie.
I know. Isn't that kind of like that's pretty good
Yeah.
explanation actually. But as we said about this movie, it's a cult classic, it's a hit. It made good money when it came out. It was very successful, but I think it has built in popularity. So it was
Yeah.
$18 million budget, 130 million at the box office. I feel like if you released it now, it would do even better, right? Like people are big fans.
Well, I
It
was
has
gonna
been
ask you in regards to that, sorry to cut you off, but,
You're
like,
good.
they did the musical, and didn't that just get
I was
made into
just
a
about
film?
to
Did you
say
see that?
I
'Cause
was
I
just about
didn't
to
see
say
it.
it has been adapted into no less than four things: a video
Mm.
game, a musical,
There's a
a
video
video
game?
version of the musical. Wait for
I'm
it,
Googling
and
this.
then Mean Girls 2, which doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they kind of like went off the rails, I think, a little bit. But I will say the musical was developed by Tina Fey and co. So at least that's a bit more legit. Mean Girls 2, there's like nobody from the original involved other than Tim Duvall or Mr. Duvall's character. He is the only one who reprises his role as the principal, Tim Meadows. And the video game, I know literally nothing about. I'm not a video game
Well,
person.
it's
And I
given me a
didn't
reason to buy a Nintendo DS, so I'm gonna be on eBay later this
Oh my
afternoon
god,
because I
it's on
need to play
Nintendo
this game.
DS.
Yes, yes.
Remind me to tell you about the time I got slapped in the face by a customer for not returning his Nintendo DS. Anyway, moving on. Fun facts. of my life in
That
retail.
jeez. Okay. We're not
People
gonna did he
well, I
get
mean, I
arrested?
can we can mark this and cut it, but high
No, I
level.
think people you can't tease that and not tell people what the fuck happened. Did this person go to jail?
No, but almost. Actually, this is actually a funny story. I hope we don't. I'll try to be fast.
Is it?
So I worked.
You're like,
I
"I got
mean,
struck by a man."
let me
It's
let me
actually a funny
rephrase.
story. No
This
one
is
has ever said that.
actually really traumatic, and I've had to make it funny to deal with it. All
Okay.
right, moving
Okay.
on. So, no, okay. So I was working customer service at Best Buy. For those of you who don't know, I worked at Best Buy in Geek Squad for a fuck ton of years before graduating college. And I was in customer service with this guy, and because I am a rule follower, I looked up his return history and I saw that his return history showed that every like 25-ish days or so, he was returning his Nintendo DS for issues. Fun fact, at
Mm,
that time, every time you did that, it issued a new receipt. And so you could have like a brand new DS every time you did that, right? So he was basically trying to keep his newest DS version every time, every 30 days before the return policy ran out. And he was like, it's not working. And I'm like, okay, let's test it. We have test games. So I tested, by the way, y'all, wrong person to test a video game. I was like, I don't know how to play video games. But I plugged it in and you can see that the thing is working, is the point. And so I was like, it's working fine for me. I'm sorry. Let me know if it breaks again and you can bring it back. He argues with me back and forth, whatever. All that to say, it escalates in him slapping me in the face because I will not return his DS. The best part of that is that he has three, count them, three of his children with him, young children, who see him assault a stranger for not returning his fucking video game console. And I don't know, I guess I have fast reflexes because he was trying to pull the DS in the game and I don't know what I did. I just grabbed it, like snatched it back from him and I ripped our game out and I was like, that's ours, sir. And I like threw the DS back at him. And then I got on the mic and I go, hey, so if anyone could come to customer service because I've just been assaulted, that would be awesome. This guy just slapped me in the face. And I said it like almost exactly like that, very like calm, cool, collect. And the like AP guy comes running across the store. Meanwhile, this guy has like gone in a circle and run out of the store with his children and is screaming at his children to follow him. He does get away. Nobody finds him. They did get a printout of him, a picture of him, and posted it. You know, like if he ever comes to the store again, like we're gonna arrest this guy. We're gonna, call him out, whatever. Cut
Jesus.
to like 6 months later when I'm a manager at a different Best Buy store that he has apparently started to go to. And he walks in and my manager's boyfriend was a cop, and I say this all the time, don't get mad, but he was like not a donut cop, he was a buff cop, and he happened to be there that
Not a
day.
DC, a BC, a
A
buff cop.
BC,
Yeah.
exactly. DC to BC. So he was like a buff cop. Anyway, I saw the guy come in and I was like, this motherfucker. Like, I was so pissed. So I run and grab her boyfriend and I'm like, hey, this guy straight up assaulted me at the last place. I don't need to press charges, but I just want him to fuck out of the store. Like, he shouldn't be here or anywhere else. He's probably trying to exchange a DS for the 37th time. And he goes and he walks in front of him. The guy's like looking down and he just stands in front of him. And it was my favorite thing. He just blocked his pathway. And he's like a foot taller than the guy and just stands in front of him. And the guy almost bumps into him and is like, what the fuck? And he's like, see that girl over there? And he points at me and he goes, it's my understanding you assaulted her about 6 months ago. And you just see his face like, oh shit. And he's like, you can either turn around or I can arrest you right here. And the guy just like booked it out of there. And I, to this day, I'm kind of like, should I have had him arrested? I feel like I should have, but I didn't.
He probably couldn't have done Quantum Mania otherwise. So did that upset you when you went to see the third Ant-Man and you're like, that's the fucking guy? I'm just kidding.
That's the fucking guy.
I'm not trying to make light, but fuck that guy. He's canceled.
I've had to
anyway.
laugh at it since then because it's just an insane reason to slap a person. Like, really?
That's bonkers, dude.
That's super insane. Anyway, speaking of assholes, solid segue, right? So speaking of assholes, this whole movie is about a bunch of assholes being assholes to each other, mean girls. My favorite thing about this though is that I love the title Mean Girls. I think it's perfect. I also like that Janice Ian says it at some point because the original title was going to be
girl.
yeah, the original title was going to be Homeschooled, which I do not
Doesn't
think
make
would have
any
had
sense. That's
would
not
not
the
have
the point of this is not that she's a homeschooled kid going to an environment
mm-mm.
she does like, that's part of the plot, but
Yeah.
the entire point and the thing I like the most about this, and I think we've said it already, is that it is pointing out that everyone in is kind of a hypocrite because we all hate when people talk
100%.
shit behind our backs, but we all do the exact same thing. At least once in your life, you've been the asshole or the mean girl, you know?
Yeah, I think everybody, like, even if you aren't a mean girl, the way that Janice accuses, Katie later, she has really evolved into that. Like, let's be fair. She's become a
Yeah.
monster. She calls herself out. She's become a monster. But yeah, even if you haven't really given into that and become that person, like, everyone's been a dick sometimes. I actually was a real dick to my sister last week. It happens. You know what I mean? Every now and then you're a little salty. Maybe you're PMSing. Who knows? Not speaking from experience, of course. But every now and then you get a little salty and you're a little mean. But I agree. I think the homeschooling thing would not have captured it at all. I
Right.
mean, that's like 3 minutes at the top, you know.
It's such a
Um,
minor, yeah, plot point.
but one of my notes in here too is like this hasn't this hasn't aged that much. Like the fashion's a little different and like some of that's a little different, but I think it still looks modern enough that it can translate to an audience now 20 years later, which I think is a testament to the quality of this movie and the writing and all of that. And I love to that end how Tina Fey made up fetch. Like it was supposed to be based on the word fetching, if you've ever heard that. Like, oh, that's so fetching on you. She wanted to use that because she didn't want it to be like current slang that would be dated later on down the road. And I think it works. I think it has a big effect because it's such a joke in the movie. And yeah, nobody's used it for anything else.
I was
I
gonna
think.
say that's what makes it stick is the fact that it didn't stick. Was it didn't even become an ironic use of, "Oh, I'm gonna
No,
start saying fetch because they made a joke about it never worked." No, fetch has never worked. So
it has never
everything went
worked.
according
And
to
it's like
plan.
a self roast on her part.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, I made up this term. And also, it's never going to work for anybody. And you only hear it as the two together, right? If somebody does say that's so fetch as a joke, they always respond with,
Stop
stop
trying to
trying to
make
make fetch happen. That's never going to happen. So
uh,
I think it's so funny. But so speaking of, like, what are some of your favorite quotes? Because I think we all know the story. She turns into a straight up asshole. She like aesthetically looks kind of ridiculous. So much makeup and like
I
the
wrote
clothes and
that
all the
down
thing. Yeah.
when she's gone full villain and she's back in Janice's store and looking at
Oh
her
my
kind of
God. Her like,
self-obsessed, looking in
yeah.
the mirror. I'm like, Lindsay Lohan is so much. I know she's like 18 and is a 40-year-old, but when I saw this, I was like 20, I think, or 19. So you're watching it and you're just like, she's so much prettier without all this caked on plastic appearance.
Totally. I have that in my notes too of like she is so much more attractive in her first iteration going to school than she is as she adds these. I said to my girlfriend I was watching this with last night, I was like, she looks so uncomfortable. Everything
Hmm.
she is wearing, and I don't mean you can't look cute unless you are uncomfortable. I think that's fundamentally false. But she is trying to look cute like to an extreme that she's
Yeah.
wildly uncomfortable. Like her clothes don't fit. Like, can we talk about her clothes don't fit? They're like coming off of her or
Yeah.
they're too tight. And like they had things on her that is actually not that flattering on her. She is not by any means heavy, but she had a couple things that were like too tight. Like I said, they didn't look right. She's over made up. And one of my favorite parts is like the chopped bangs that nobody can
Yeah.
figure out how to make the chopped bangs look good back then. I don't know what that deal was, but there were always those girls who like hyper straightened their bangs and it was just like it was like pointed down. She has those. I'm like, you don't look great, girlfriend. Like it's not a great look.
It's
But
not Courtney
she's
Cox in Scream 3 bad of like her bangs
no.
in that where they're like
No.
cut super it looks like she did them herself and just put a bowl on her head and went snip snip, but
She must
they're
have.
pretty
I
rough.
swear. They're
Yeah.
pretty bad. But yeah, like you said, she's just self-obsessed and she's gotten worse and I like that the voiceover is calling her out cuz otherwise you would be
Mhm.
so annoyed with her, She's like, "I hear everybody, I spent 80% of my time time talking about Regina George and the other 20% of my time waiting for somebody to bring her up so I could talk about her more. And I love when Janice Ian is like, yeah, you told me that one. She's like, I could hear people getting bored with me. And you're like, yeah, we're bored with you.
Yeah.
Move
I
on.
do think this movie benefits by having the main character be the narrator, and also it's kind of seen in hindsight where she's telling the story and
Right.
walking us through how she became this villain and how it eventually played out.
Mm-hmm,
So I think it
mm-hmm.
benefits because you don't ever actually hate our protagonist, but you're understand like you're fed up with her, but you understand she is looking back on this and she's self-aware about it.
Yeah, and I think that's good that she's, she has learned from this experience on the whole, but she goes through some shit to do it. And like
Hmm.
some of my things that I that I don't love is the faking being bad at math to get a boy to help her,
Yeah.
who one super can't help her also, but two, like does he have to see your grades? You know what I mean? Like there are ways to do this where you like snatch up your grade. I mean, I'm not trying to help this girl lie, but I just mean like do better. Like you don't have to literally actually fail the class to get this boy to quote unquote help you. And
Yeah,
she just commits. She like over commits to
they
me.
have that one throwaway scene where she's asking him for help and then the grade gets dropped on her desk and he sees she got an A and he's like, "Oh, I think you're doing fine." So I guess that's their way of explaining it away, that he saw a good grade, so she felt she had to consistently fail. But yeah,
Yeah.
don't love that of pretending to be dumb. But I do like the internal monologues when she's asking him for advice and he gives the wrong answer and she's like, "Wrong," in her head.
Yeah,
Like,
I do like
that's
that.
also,
That's
yeah,
very funny.
it
But
does give
ladies,
us that joke.
PSA. That is funny, but it's not funny in real life. Like, do not dumb yourselves down for a man. Like, I mean, if you get the joke or you think it's, you understand the concept, do not ask them to explain it to you. I just watched something the other day. I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was a Bridgerton thing where they were like, hey, we need to ask this man to explain this to us. She's like, no, I don't. And she's like, yes, I do. Men like to be useful. I'm like,
Ooh.
I don't give a shit if you like to be useful. I already know this. I'm not going to pretend to be dumb so that
I
you
feel like
feel useful.
that's a running gag, or at least a like a stretch of the Barbie movie when they're like,
Yes,
"Oh, here's
yes.
how we can distract the boys by asking them how this thing works," and they will spend 10 minutes mansplaining it to me. Yeah, that's how we work,
Oh.
guys. I'm sorry, I do it too. I'm not gonna pretend I don't. But you had asked me,
Yeah,
what was
what's your
my
faves?
favorite line. What I had written down was, what
Ooh.
do you think has endured the most from this? Because it is so highly quotable, and I'll give you a few options, but you can feel free to throw your own out there.
So
So,
quotes that have endured, you mean?
what's
Okay.
been the thing that's endured the most from this movie? So, like,
Okay.
I have "You Can't Sit With Us." I have "She Doesn't Even She Doesn't Even Go Here." I have "On Wednesdays We Wear Pink," the one we called out at the beginning, "Get In, Loser, We're Going Shopping," "Boo You Whore." So those are
God,
what I would say are like my top
these are
5 of like
so
this still
hard.
gets quoted. You want to pick one of those, or is there another one that stands out to you?
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I know you just did it, but do it again really fast because you said a
Okay,
few.
"You Can't Sit With Us," "On
Mm-hmm.
Wednesdays We Wear Pink," "Get In,
Mm-hmm.
Loser, We're Going Shopping," "She Doesn't Even Go Here," and "Boo You Whore." Which do you think gets quoted the most, I guess, or is endured? What's the legacy of this film the most?
Yikes, that's hard. I feel like you hear on Wednesdays we wear pink the most because there is Mean Girls Day. Like literally there's a Mean Girls Day where they say that every time. So I think you
Mhm.
hear that one the most. But I personally I think of those. I love the she doesn't even go here the most. I just
Same.
think that's so funny and like it's just the whole concept around it is so funny and it's a great way to I don't know dismiss somebody in a funny non-confrontational way, and I do hear people use it that way sometimes. It's very funny.
Yeah. It's also a good, like, nice we covered Wet Hot American Summer a couple months ago, and that's, like, the one most, I think, absurd humor moment in the
Mhm,
film of there's a
mhm.
girl in this meeting that doesn't even go to the school, and it's just so silly, but it works because it's this
Yeah.
little throwaway line. Yeah.
I think the other one that holds up a lot, but that you didn't mention is the "I'm not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom."
I'm a cool
I feel
mom. That's
like
also,
people
yeah.
say that all the time, and it's always hilarious. It always works, you know what I mean? So I think that one's super, super funny. I also really liked the "raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by Regina George," and repurposing that for, whatever, personally been advised by
Yeah.
Mackenzie Wayne,
Yeah.
whatever. So I think those are some other ones that are big standouts for me.
So I want to backtrack. I know we are not, guys, we are not going to go through this plot beginning to end. You're all very familiar of it, so we're going to jump all around. But one of the first notes I'd written down was, who the fuck divorces Tina Fey? I know that it's
Who
a
the
teacher.
fuck
She is
does that?
funny. She is smart. She is beautiful. Who divorces this woman?
A monster? A sociopath? A pathetic loser who probably, it sounds like, did not graduate law school, by the way. So he seems like not a gem. We don't love him. I also hate that it's making her broke in the process. I do love the
Yeah.
Mr. Duval moment of him. Like, you can tell he has a little crushy poo on her.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's like offensive about it at all. He's like pretty cute about it, you know? And then he compliments her in the big workshop. He's like, "You're a caring, intelligent, capable woman." And she obviously feels like her lowest. So let's all just give her a grain of, little grain of salt here where she's like, "I am? Oh, wait. Yeah, I am." And I love that you transition from her just moment of self-consciousness to immediately being like, "I know exactly how to deal with this. I know exactly how to deal
Hmm.
with these girls. I know exactly how to make them aware of their own issues." And you just see her immediately again being this totally capable badass woman. So I think it's great, and I think it's a little cute that
Yeah,
he
I
likes
like
her.
their dynamic as sort of a background plot that we never really get full closure
Yeah.
on, but it's just a nice little thing that gets mentioned. I felt a little weird rewatching it when I mean, to the writing credit and Tina herself, she's the one that calls out, maybe we can talk when my shirt is a little less see-through.
I know.
The him looking at him and seeing his eyes drop down and then come back up, I was like, that maybe we didn't need, but she's the one
Mm.
that sort of called attention to it
She
first.
does
So
call it out. He was
yeah,
probably trying really hard not to look, and
yeah.
then she said something, and like,
I'm
yeah.
like, that's the only moment where he doesn't seem as wholesome, but then throughout the rest of it, like he has that really honest compliment of her come workshop time. So I do
Yeah,
like
I think it's very sincere. And yeah, like I had that happen once too from a very nice guy who was like he looked down and I was like kind of annoyed and I have a big ass stain on my shirt. And I was like, "Of course, checks out. Cool. Cool, cool,
yeah.
cool."
The other thing I wanted to call out at the very beginning was this is a common theme within all of these high school teenage films or even something like She's All That, where like who isn't gonna want to be friends with this, cute Lindsay Lohan redhead that just showed up to school, the new girl, and can't hardly wait. Literally,
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt gets a boyfriend on the first day of school. So I don't like that
Yikes.
pretend situation, but I went, holy shit, Janice Ian with the first round draft pick sleeper of being like, hey, we're your friends now. You are
I
our
didn't
friends.
expect to get you in the first round, but
Right.
here we are. I like roped you. And don't they call them like the weird art kids or something like that too? So they're
It
like the
is
least probable to get her out of the gate.
it is interesting that she, in her mapping of the cafeteria, which is problematic in itself, refers to them as like the coolest kids you'll ever meet or whatever versus
Yeah.
the plastic. She's describing everyone with these negative connotations. But then when you hear it from the plastic's perspective, that's the weird art kid table.
Yeah. But also, I love that for us. You know what I mean? I love that for the art kids. They're like, we're fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, we are cool and we're confident in ourselves and we don't give a shit what other people think of us. Those are the
Yeah.
best fucking kind. Like, those are
Yeah.
the best people. And those were like, I was a theater kid and a music kid. And we had a bunch of those types of people who were like, I mean, who really cares if you're interested in what I am interested in? I love it. So fuck off. Uh,
Yeah.
but I also love, speaking of Janice, end quotes. I love her "you smell like a baby prostitute" line. I think it's such a hidden gem. I don't think people
Yeah.
spend enough time with it personally. And I want to know, what do we think a baby prostitute smells like? I
I was
have
hoping that's where
questions.
you were taking this. Yeah.
I really want to know. What do we think that is? I don't know. Like,
I'm not entirely sure, but I do love how the
it's got to
response
be
from Katie
cheap.
is thanks.
Yeah.
She thinks
Thanks.
it's a compliment. Yeah.
But like, how? I have so many questions, but I just want to know. I want that somebody make that perfume or tell me which perfume that is that smells like that because I need to smell what that would smell like. That is wild to me. But I love Janice on the whole. She's like really confident and witty and funny, and she makes that beautiful, beautiful. I say this in quotes because people have feelings about it. That painting of the three of them. Did you like the painting, or did you feel like it was creepy? Like, what were your
I
thoughts
didn't
on the
understand
painting?
how it won an award.
Yeah.
I drew a picture of me and my two friends, gold medal. I don't understand why it won an award. I think it's a
Maybe
good
this,
painting,
maybe the
but
sentiment. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. And it's like weirdly realistic. So you're also like, it just feels like a portrait with some interesting background stuff. And so, yeah,
yeah,
I was interested in your take on the art. Art is subjective, guys. You might love that painting. I had questions.
I think it's fine. I would like to see what artwork this was up against in the
Right, I want to go to the
competition
show.
because I
You know
want to
what?
make
If
sure the
Katie had
judges
gone to the
weren't
fucking
biased.
show, then we
We
would
could have seen
know.
that.
We
Yep.
could have seen it. Thanks
And
a
we could
lot,
have seen that
Katie.
maybe like Janice's mom was the one judge in this competition when that's the one right there. Okay, emergency pod session, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that this is not. I have gotten a haircut. I'm wearing a different. You went through the
I
effort
tried
of
to like
putting on
make
your
it
Mean Girls.
blend. I put makeup back on, which I had never normally do for the pod, but I did for Mean Girls for some
Yeah,
reason. So I like really committed to the bit. And then you were like, JK, I got a
I
haircut.
probably should. I probably should have told you I got a haircut before this. But the reason for
Totally
this,
fine.
it's a couple days after we recorded majority of our Mean Girls episode, and I'll figure out where this fits in. I apologize if this is just coming out of nowhere, y'all. But there was one topic you mentioned this person, and I feel like this is upon rewatch something that I want to discuss.
Okay.
Is Janice Ian kind of the worst at times in this movie? She's like the most mean girl of the mean girls at times, but it feels like she kind of gets off scotch free.
Scotch free or scot free? Sorry.
Scotch free, like the tape.
I couldn't let it go. No, let me see. This is a great point that you're right. I don't think ever comes up really. Everybody gives Janice a
We all love
pass.
Janice. She's very funny,
She's funny,
but she
but is she kind of a dick?
instigates.
Yeah.
She's like sending Katie in to be the spy because she wants to get back at Regina. She like
Hmm.
oversees this whole thing. And obviously we know Katie does kind of go to the dark side for a bit and she's
Yeah.
naturally pissed, but she's the one that caused this. And then at the end, even when all the girls are doing their confessions of I'm sorry I did this, and she plays it off as I was totally, right in what I did. I said and
Yeah.
she unleashes everything and sort of blows up everybody's spot, but then like flips them off, is funny about it, gets a big standing ovation
Yeah.
from the girls. It feels weird.
That part has always like that part is the one piece that has always stood out to me, that she's the person that gets up there, other than Gretchen Wieners, who kind of doesn't take accountability for something, and trust falls and everybody
Yeah.
welcomes her with open arms. I think that's totally true. I have noticed that and been like, why does she get to flip everybody off and just be like, who gives a shit? But I think it's totally true, because I think she may have started with, this person wronged her first, like Regina wronged her first, but her motives at the top are definitely not innocuous. They are not, she's not just being funny. She's taking her own revenge. I mean, she says that, like, I want to, have revenge on this girl. So yeah, I think she's absolutely one of the mean girls. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally.
Okay.
And I think she maybe is the only one who kind of doesn't learn from that. Like, she does call out. I mean, if you think about it, she calls out Katie for turning into a full-blown mean girl. Cool. But does she ever acknowledge her own mean girlness? I'm trying to think, and I don't
Not
think
really, unless
so.
I'm misremembering. So I can't remember where she shows up in this sort of closing montage. I'm sure there's scenes of her and Katie talking and like hanging out again,
I
but
think they're
I don't.
just
We never
sitting
get
on
like,
the lawn, and we don't get like a Janice has done da da da, like, because
yeah.
I wrote all the like where they are now things that they say, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't say anything about her. They just show her and Kevin like canoodling. But yeah, they don't really say anything about her. So no, I think it's a fair point. I think maybe she's the one who learns the least, actually, which is because you like her so much. That's really disappointing, because you like want to like her
Yeah, yeah,
throughout.
and all this to again, we're calling out. I mean, 3 or 4 story beats in this, but for most of the movie, she's one of my favorite characters
Yeah.
because she's so damn funny, and her cynicism is, fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I felt like we glossed over that, and it was in my head to talk about when we recorded on Saturday. And I just didn't want her to get off, scotch free, as people say, as people in Scotland
As
say.
people totally say. It's accurate how they say that. No, I agree. I don't think she should get off. I think it's a great point, because you do see her try to kind of move away from it later, but she's still, like she's not as interested in it anymore throughout. She wants to just be friends with Katie and Damien, but she definitely stirs the pot and doesn't really, ever learn, as far as we can tell.
I wouldn't be surprised if that painting that she was going to give Katie, or that she does give Katie, I guess, that wins the award. What if things had gone according to plan, that was all part of like a suicide pact? Like she was like, this is how we will be remembered. It's them with like the clouds behind them. It's very weird. We talked about this already.
We did talk about it being a weird painting.
Fit this in the episode. Like, maybe that was her plan. And then she's like, Katie's mean now.
It's a very dark, hard left turn that we just took on this little
You're
blip.
not in the pact anymore. Take this painting. It won an award. Anyway.
Maybe this needs to go at the very end. Maybe this is the outtake. But yeah,
sorry,
thanks for the emergency pod sesh. This was a first. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, maybe we should just do 5-minute episodes. I feel like I have so much energy. I could keep going, but maybe just do 5-minute episodes from now on.
Just leave them wanting more. Leave them wanting more.
Yeah. All right, back to, or either this is at the end of the episode, in which case goodbye again,
really
or
weirdly
back
placed.
to the episode.
We wish you the best. See ya.
Deuces. Now, I wanted to ask you, of all the things in this film, because I think a trend of all these high school movies that we're doing, at least we're 3 for 3 in hate speech in high school films across decades. And I think that's just a common thing of, we want it to sound how teenagers talk, and teenagers can be offensive assholes.
Teenagers are assholes.
We were offensive assholes when we were teenagers. I get it. But I'm going to give you a few options of what has not aged, or what has aged the worst in the last 2 decades. So
hit me.
The cafeteria overview, where they talk about, angry black people, girls who eat their feelings, lots of stereotypes thrown into that one scene.
Even her waving at the black table and trying to say jumbo or whatever it was. Like, yeah. Oof.
So the cafeteria, we have a teacher sleeping with a student that is played nearly 90% for laughs. I know at the end they say he got arrested or whatever, but like, it is played for comedy throughout the majority of the film.
Yep.
You have the hate speech in general. I think we hear the R word, mentally, at least 4 times, and it's always played for laughs, not really meant to be offensive. And then the 4th one is the skipping CD. So which of those 4 things, a CD that skips, which of those 4 things has aged the worst, do you think?
I, first of all, love that the CD made the fucking list, because I said this last night repeatedly to the group that I was watching it with. I was like, guys, y'all remember how CDs would skip? Do y'all remember? And nobody else thought it was funny except for me. Anyway, so I still think that's really funny. So I guess that didn't age poorly for me. I gotta be the coach thing, the underage girls thing. Like, it is so wildly inappropriate, and you're absolutely right. It is played for laughs, even in the girls have gone wild scene, which another issue. But they have he's pulled them apart. He's like, I pulled these 2 off of each other, and it's like, yeah, you did.
Take your hands off and step away from the minors.
But I do love that the Mr. Duval in that moment, where he's just like ready to bust that guy up. You know what I mean? I was like, he looks tough. He's pretty fit, right? He's got the baseball bat. He's ready to fuck some people up. I love that moment for him. I hate the rest of it for us.
I do like how prepared he is when he hears,
he has the baseball bat.
He grabs the bat. Like,
he is ready with the fucking bat. He's like, you know what? I've seen this before, guys. Hold on. Hold my beer. I have got the baseball bat. No, I loved him in that moment, but no, Coach Carr, that's gross. That's gross in a lot of ways. He's the fucking sex ed teacher back earlier in the thing too, where he's like, you're going to get chlamydia. And it's like, do you know that from personal experience, sir? Like, oh God, it's gross. Yeah, that ages, I think, the most poorly. What do you think? Is that the one for you too?
That's probably the one for me. And again, it's I think that a lot of things, especially the way that they refer to people, we don't love seeing nowadays. But yeah, that being a joke was what delivered it home for me. Was they consistently just. Yeah. It's mentioned 3 times, I think, before we get to the resolution, and it's just always played for laughs. So I didn't love that.
Yeah, I did not like that. The other thing that I don't think ages well is, so I want to do a quick rundown actually of where everybody ends up to kind of wrap us up for a quick sec. So Regina moves to lacrosse and sports to channel her rage. In case
Hmm.
you weren't aware, which checks out. She seems much more mellow, by the way, as a result. So good for her. Uh,
Cathartic.
Cathartic, exactly. She's processing her emotions in a healthy way. We're very proud of her. Karen does the weather announcements because obviously she can tell you when it is raining, but by 30% chance. And then Gretchen, this is the one I don't think ages well, goes to the quote cool Asians group. One, I have to say, she's already speaking Vietnamese, like fucking impressive. She's smarter than we have given her
Yeah.
credit for. But two, she has no fucking growth whatsoever. She is just serving another queen bee, quote unquote. And also, she is not Asian. She is Jewish. And it is a very weird pivot and kind of inappropriate pivot to be like, hey, if I just straighten my hair, I can go be Vietnamese. Like, that was not
It does.
great.
It feels weird for that character, like you said, no growth. So to me, it's just a mistake on the part of, unfortunately, the writer here, Tina Fey, of, hey, how can we wrap up this character's story? And yeah, it's just she goes
But
to a
maybe it's
different
true
group.
in
Like,
that not everybody grows out of it. You know what I mean? If you think about high school and you look back at who you know from high school, there's probably at least one of them who's exactly the same,
yeah,
who
yeah.
didn't grow at all. And I'm not justifying, like, again, the cultural appropriation of it all, but maybe she just didn't grow at all and that was her only option and maybe she's just like that. But yeah, I didn't love the cultural jump over to a
Yeah,
group
that
with which
hasn't
she could
aged
not
well. I would add
identify.
that to the list. One thing that has aged well, whose stock is up since this movie, is the hooking up with your first or second cousin, because thanks to Game of Thrones, that stock is way up these days. So props to you,
Oh my
Karen.
god. That is so terrible to watch in Game of Thrones too, though. Like, you just feel the ick real hard. But fun fact, that was supposed to be more icky. That was supposed to be oral sex actually, and they had to rein it in to keep it PG-13. Like, that they were just kissing in that
Well,
bathroom.
but that wasn't the cousins. That was Gretchen and
Yeah, but he's
Jason.
like her first cousin or
No,
her.
you're mixing up Karen.
Oh, oh,
Karen's the
oh,
one who wants to
Karen.
like
You're
hook up
right.
with
You're
her
right.
cousin. Yeah.
Jason's just a dipshit who we should not be hooking up with.
And I
That's
do love
right.
how she slaps him in the face when they get caught. Like she pretends
She's
like
like, oh,
she's
how
upset about it.
terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
checks out. Very Gretchen of her. But on the upside, Aaron goes to Northwestern, which is a great university and happens to also be the university that Katie's mom works at. So that's cool. And I love that Katie's growth is, I'm a normal human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she's just come out of her, ragey plastic moment and she's just being like a normal person,
And
which
I
is
guess
great.
her growth is also, which we mentioned earlier, sort of demonstrated through the narrative of this, her narrating the story, right?
But can we also talk about the, like, she does her big speech, which is a great learning experience. I really do love the content of her speech, but that
Hmm.
crown is so lame. Like, everybody was so obsessed with getting this crown. Like, you can go to Party City, it's 25 cents. Like, and I say that with 2024 inflation in mind. That bitch is not expensive. And she just cracks it and throws it at him. And I mean, it was cute, but I was also like, we couldn't get a better crown? Really? Like, have
Yeah,
you even seen
that's
She's All That and their awesome crown? But it
yeah,
was cute. It was
I
cute.
do I like the wrap up a lot. I think it brings everything together. I like that it isn't resolved. I was trying to put myself, when I was rewatching this, into my shoes the first time I watched it, and I think you assume that in the gymnasium scene, when all the girls are admitting the mean things they've said about each other, that would sort of be the resolution of the conflict. Of, yeah, it turns out we're all assholes.
Yeah.
And then when Katie refuses to admit that she's the one who was like in on this burn book thing, that's when we get an extension of it, and eventually she does. So I do like that
Yeah.
the natural moment that you think it would get resolved isn't it. There's still another 15 minutes of her sort of
Mhm.
like working through this shit and her character developing.
I just wonder if you would, like, her little apology tour would work in real life, you know? I think it works great for her as a character. I just I can't help but think, like, somebody is gonna not forgive her, I feel like. But
I think high schoolers have short-term memory. They probably don't give a
That's
care
true. Maybe
about
they don't forget to
yeah.
give her right now, but they do later. And I like the nod from Regina George at the end of like, we cool, like
Yeah,
we're not homies, but we're cool.
yep.
And the junior plastics like almost bus moment is definitely funny. But you're also like, oh, okay, so they learned nothing. You guys learned some stuff, but like this is just gonna keep happening and happening. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of life, right? I feel like every 5 years that I've lived is me trying to make up for the negatives of the 5 years prior to that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like you're an
Mm-hmm.
asshole as a teenager, you think you're being smarter in your 20s, you realize you were kind of a dick in different ways. So I just think that's growth. You never stop growing throughout your life. And these young girls that are coming in as freshmen are gonna have to learn some lessons, grow up.
Y'all, this is the Lamar just turned 40 speaking. He's gotten very philosophical.
One step closer to death. Here we go.
I love it. Okay. So we wrapped it up. Obviously, we think this movie is super quotable, kind of fun. Some things don't age well, but overall a great time to watch. What's your rating?
I'm gonna go relatively high with this one. Even on rewatch, yes, some stuff has not aged well, but as far as rewatchability, it's still fun every time I watch it. I'd
Yeah.
go as high as like an 8.5. I think Mean Girls is a really good movie. It's got a
Yeah.
moral behind it. Some of the humor doesn't hit the same, and even in the original thing, I remember there were a couple jokes that didn't land for me
Yeah.
when I first saw it in 2004. But I give it like an 8.5. I think it's a really good film.
I love it. We're gonna jinx this time because that's what I have in my
Oh
notes as
shit, this hasn't
well.
happened in a
I th-
while.
I was gonna say this hasn't happened in a while, maybe ever, but it's had to have happened at least once. But it's not common. 8.5. It was my call as well because again, I agree with everything you just said. Just it's a good time. It's really fun to watch. I'm never disappointed if I watch it. I think it ages pretty well, all things considered, too. So yeah, shout out Tina Fey for making this like kind of timeless classic. I don't know if I'm going to see the musical version on video at least. Like, I feel like musicals should be first experienced as
Yeah.
a live thing before you watch a video version. I don't know. We'll see, TBD. But I think this one really holds
I
up.
got a random rec for you, and anybody out there who happens to be in New York City or one of the cities where this is at. But I saw the Back to the Future musical, and that
Oh,
was
that's right. I
very
forgot
much
you did that.
worth seeing. If you love the
Oh,
Back to the Future film, go see the musical. The musical itself, like the songs are okay. The songs are good. They're not
but the
great or memorable,
experience is
but the
great.
experience is off the wall. It's great.
I love a musical. Highly recommend Moulin Rouge, for example. It's remade on Broadway as well. It's inspired by the film, but it is definitely different. So don't
Hmm.
assume that it's exactly the same. Also a great time. Go check it out. So just while we're
Nice.
plugging musicals, may as well.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, thank you for joining us. We know this was a bit of a long one, but I think it was a fun one. So we appreciate you being here. Come back next week for us to, I think, round out, the
Yep.
back to school month with our last entry of Booksmart,
Which, like,
which
I don't think a ton of people have seen. It came out about 5 years ago,
so
and
good.
if you're only listening to this because you've seen Mean Girls and you really like Mean Girls and you haven't seen Booksmart, I feel like you should. It's
You
basically, it
should.
takes all the tropes from all the other movies we've covered and
Yeah.
mashes them together into
And
sort of the modern
modernizes
day.
them.
Yep.
And makes them pretty funny. Like I won't get too far in the weeds, but I think it's a good time. I think it's worth a watch if you want to listen next week. Definitely go check it out. But in the meantime,
In the meantime, you can follow us on our socials at We Drink and We Watch Things, mostly on Instagram and TikTok. But engage with us there. We're looking for suggestions for what movies you want us to cover in October because we have horror season coming up, spooky season. And then also email us, we drink and we watch things pod at gmail.com because in addition to that, we have our 1 year anniversary coming in October and we want to hear from you guys. So send us a message or a voicemail or whatever the hell, a video you want to send us. We're going to sort of sift through and see what our favorites are. We'll read 3 to 5 of them in that episode. And whoever our favorite is gets one of those fancy $200 koozies that we've been trying to sell for years. I'm not going to say how many we've sold or not sold.
yeah, it's not important. The point is they're valuable.
They're
And
worth
they're
$200.
worth $200 and you need one. So, yeah, definitely shoot us a message. And also just I will say to you, Lamar, I think we are at our actual anniversary because I know that'll be our anniversary ep, but we started in September. So, happy
Oh,
early anniversary to
I didn't buy
us.
you. I didn't buy you a gift. You bought me that photo from the
I definitely
Mean
also have
Girls.
another gift coming for you. So extra excited about that. But
Okay.
anyways,
I'll
we'll do
hit
that
up,
in our anniversary app. Don't you worry, guys. But for now, thanks for joining us. Go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
cheers.